Alright, so what's up, YouTube? Sorry, my camera's a little fuzzy and my phone is going to keel over into the camera because I moved things. Anyway, so I just thought, I wondered if Thylacine ever actually made it into North America. Because, like, my honest thought was, for all you crypto nuts out there, I don't know if there's any kind of evidence that they were ever running around wild in North America. I'm pretty sure there's not. But, you know, maybe there's something here for you on if you want to dig a little bit deeper. So what I did is I looked up, I want to know if we ever had any in zoos here. And I really couldn't figure out what that was. So I just went on the internet and I looked it up. And I'm going to try and do this whole series now where I kind of just do this. I get an idea, I'm going to go look something up, tell you guys the story, read you all the information. And, yeah, so this is for a fact, and this is documented cases of the zoos that had thylacine here in North America. So without further ado, let's check that out. So first things first, this here is the thylacine. It's these guys. Everybody knows they're Tasmanian tigers. It's, you know, had the tiger stripes on the back. They're really famous. They're trying to bring them back to life and everything. But let's find out which ones were actually in North America. So I brought up this. So this is at natureworlds.org. I'm not the writer of this. I don't want to claim anything that I am. This was an article written by this. You guys can see where y'all can look it up at. So United States had 9 thylacines in total were exhibited in 2 zoos in North America. The National Zoo in Washington, D.C. and the Bronx Zoo in New York. So the National Zoo in Washington, D.C. is the first on the list. So the history of 5 thylacines that were displayed at National Zoo is well documented on the 3rd of July, 1902. A cablegram from the Smithsonian was sent to America Consular D. Frederick Webster Goading in Newcastle. And I'm going to mess up so many of these names. I'm just going to apologize now. NSW with the words. I don't know what that is either. So, get wolf and devils shipped by steamer. On the 3rd of September, 1902, a female thylacine, together with her 3 pouched young, arrived at the zoo. They were obtained from the City Park Zoo in Launceston. The artist and naturalist Joseph Gleason painted the family group from life and produced the only known historical painting of a thylacine with young in the pouch. So as you guys can see in the photo, here's the female thylacine, and there's her pouch with a young joey sticking out the back, and here's the other 2 joeys. Gleason's paintings, or the preparatory drawings for the paintings, must have been undertaken virtually as soon as the family group arrived, as one of the pups died on the 12th of September 1902 after only 9 days at the zoo. So they did not do well here in North America. At least the joeys didn't. Yes, that's pretty cool. That was the painting. The mother of the pups arrived at the zoo in poor condition due to several weeks of confinement in a cramped transportation crate. The crate was so narrow that the female was unable to turn around, and consequently her sides were brutally rubbed and legs cramped. Thankfully, her health improved over a period of months. Her pups were described as large as a common rat on their admission records. So, you know, about a rat. So joeys are about this big. Thylacines were housed in the Lion House, and their arrival at the zoo was noted in an article in the New York Herald dated 5 July 1903 under the heading, "Only Marsupial Wolf in America." Here is a queer animal one might take for a dog offhand, but it is really a wolf, which is wrong. It is not like ordinary wolves, however, being a marsupial from Australia. In that country are found marsupial rats, marsupial cats, and various other creatures of the same order which carry their young in pouches like kangaroos, which of course are marsupials. This is the first marsupial wolf that was ever brought to this country as 2 pups. Down here's the photograph. Or no, I guess that's just the entrance to the Lion House. Annis Hardcrit Knight, 1903, the daughter of Charles Robert Knight, the famous American natural history, noted in the Centrally Illustrated Monthly Magazine, May 1903, the following comments on a visit to the sea, the thylacines in 1903. The Washington Zoo possesses 3 thylacines, a mother and 2 babies, which arrived some weeks ago in very poor condition as a result of a month's voyage from Australia in the confined limits of a box greater part of the time, and when she did move, apparently to do so with difficulty, the little ones recuperated more quickly than their mother and tried to engage her in their sport by jumping upon her back and rolling down her sides. She is now beginning to take a livelier interest in things. Aaron would do at first. The little ones traveled around their mother's pouch, sometimes with their mother's ads. Went along, they entered it as also frequently feeding, and at such times there was always a scramble for first place. Though these animals are said to be very vicious, the particular one is performed harmless and wholly indifferent to the presence of man. The keeper enters the cage, treats her wounds when she is feeding, and the only notice she takes them is when stung by the application to walk quietly to the other side of the cage and then return immediately to her food. Her face never assumes the ugly snarl of the wolf, but always bears a blank, stupid expression from which one might judge the intelligence is much lower order than that of the wolf. So they just kept comparing them to wolves, which is fascinating to me that that's how they would think of these things. Like, because they're not wolves, and I don't think there's real evidence of them hunting like them either. Like, this was just the only thing that Americans could actually compare them to for what we had here at the time. The call is a particular couching sound, which, until recognized as a note of affection, gave the keepers great concern regarding the condition of her lungs. The sound was easily understood when it was observed that the mother, in giving vent to it, was immediately answered by her cubs. Often when sleeping, she will rouse for a moment, and after making this peculiar cry, listen expectantly until she hears the diminutive counterpart, whereupon she will let fall her head and rest content. When lying in this way, her face towards you, nursing her little one, she gives the impression of a wolf suckling tiger cubs, as the black stripes on her back in this particular position are entirely hidden, while shown conspicuously upon the young ones. So, yeah, basically, like, she's laying face at you. You can't see the stripes, but you can see the stripes on the baby. So it's like a dog nursing cats is what they were comparing it to. That's almost insane just to think about. Like, but this was the only thing we could register for us here, because we didn't know these things. And they were already on their way out in 1902. Like, I think further down this, it'll explain that there's not that many left, even now, when they're getting them in the zoos. They just really did not care to bring these animals back. And we probably could have, if we really tried. I mean, if we could have got, like, a breeding population established in zoos in North America, we could have done so much better, but they just seemed like nobody really cared, honestly, when you read some of this stuff about them. So, the mother survived at the zoo until her death on 4 November 1902. Her administration records note she was in good health until the summer of 1904, then began to fail and refuse food. On the 5th July 1905, the zoo received an additional male thylacine from Dr. F.W. Gordon, once again sourced from the City Park Zoo in Launceston. The young male was introduced to the female pup from the original litter after just a few weeks, and they appeared to be getting along well. As an unrelated pair, one can assume the zoo was hoping for a successful pairing that might have resulted in young. Initially, they were kept separate at feeding times and during the night to save any potential competition, but as curator W.H. Blackburn noted in the Daily Report of the Animal Department dated 7 October 1905, the male attacked the female on the morning of the 6th October and inflicted damage to her ear and face. So they actually were fighting and trying to breed them, I guess, but that obviously it wasn't going very well. Probably because, I mean, just conditions of zoos in 1902 was just essentially just cages. I mean, if you actually look back at photos, they are not great. And here is like a list of the thylacines and when they had them at the zoo and when they died. So basically, one got there in 1902, died 2 years later. So one of her pups died as it got there, as soon as it got to the zoo. One lived for 3 years in the zoo, from 1902 to 1905. That was the other male. The female lived for quite a while, and then the last male they got in 1904 also made it to basically the female in 1909. On October 3rd, 1909, followed some 10 days later, on the 13th of October 1909 by the female pup from the original litter, thus ending the zoo's 7-year history of thylacine displays. The remains of all thylacine are exhibited at the National Zoo and are now within the Smithsonian's Museum of Natural History collection. And here's your source, your International Thylacine Specimen Database, 5th revision, and it was revived in 2013. So that was essentially the Washington Zoo's history, and I can't find if there was any more of them anywhere else. I mean, we can, real quick, I guess I can go over the thylacine, all the thylacine. I think this one's like displayed in zoos, so the Bronx Zoo had them as well. Yeah, the Bronx Zoo in New York City exhibited a total of 4 thylacines between 1902 and 1919, with a 5th that died in transit. There's a long history of this. The first of the Bronx Zoo 4 thylacines were obtained from Carl Hagenbeck, the famous German animal dealer, arriving at the zoo in December 17, 1902. And here's a photograph of the young males taken shortly after its arrival. There's another photograph. The zoo's 2nd thylacine, also a male, was transited through London's arrival in New York on the 26th of January 1912. This thylacine was one of the litter of 3 pups together with their mother displayed at the Madras Zoo from July of 1909. The family group was photographed by Williamson, January 1910, with the Bronx male at the far left of the photograph. So there's the other ones. The zoo's 3rd thylacine, a male, arrived at the zoo November 7th, 1916, in poor condition, died 7 days later on the 13th of November. This thylacine, together with a female, arrived safely in North America from Sydney aboard the SS Niagara. The ship docked in Victoria, British Columbia, carrying a consignment of marsupial birds and reptiles for the animal Alex Joseph. Unfortunately, the female thylacine died in transit on her journey between Canada and New York. The arrival of Joseph's consignment is noted in the article. On the 4th of July of August, the SS of the New Zealand ship cone brought over a large and varied collection of specimens from Sydney, Australia. It consisted of 93 species of mammals, birds, and reptiles, the property of Mr. Ellis S. Joseph, and cosmopolitan collector of wide experience and much availability. As this collection arrives from Australia, we naturally give marsupials our first consideration. Their boxes contain not only many specimens, but were rich in species of great interest, rarely represented in our public zoos. Taking the Polyodontids first, we have 2 fine examples of that now almost extinct female, and then it just goes down the list. And it says, the last of the Bronx Zoo's thylacines, a female, 14 April 1917, and resold to the Bronx Zoo, arriving 14 July 1917. It died on 13 September 1919. William Hornday, the zoo's director, noted that... Sorry, I lost where I was at. William Hornday, the zoo's director, noted that when Mr. Lee Sophie, the zoo, stood before the cage of the thylacine on it, he expressed surprise at the sight of the animal and said, "I advise you to take excellent care of that specimen, for when it is gone, you will never get another. These species soon will be extinct." So they just knew that they were going to be gone. There was nothing, at least here in the U.S., that we could really do about it. No one really wanted to save them, which is really sad. It really does kind of make you hope that there's some still out there still. And I'm sorry about my glare on my glasses. I'll have to figure all that out at some point. But yeah, it's really sad when you think about it, because they were here. Like in 1917, you could have went to the Bronx Zoo and saw a thylacine, and I don't think, at least here in America, they just did not do well. It seems like they all didn't live very long, relatively speaking. The Bronx Zoo thylacines were housed in the Fox Den, marked number 23 on the map above the zoo above. So you can scroll back and look at the map if you want. Thylacine displayed at the Madras Zoo, 1886. They don't even know when these ones died, or like what sex they were or when they died. Madras Zoo, now referred to as the Arignar Anna Zoological Park or Velder Zoo, is the largest zoological garden in India. It first opened to the public in 1815. Dr. Bob Peddle, 2012, states the zoo obtained 2 thylacines from the Adelaide Zoo in 1886 in exchange for stock animals. Unfortunately, records no longer exist to determine the length of the zoo's age. Thylacine display. So, like, just feels like so much has been lost about these things. Like, and it just never ceases to astound me, just like how much could have just like disappeared. I mean, for such a popular animal, you would think that everybody would know. All right, so I think that's it as far as those go. So that's what I'm saying. Like, even that, like, that's, I think so. Yeah, the Thylacine Museum. I read you guys that one. Thylacine became extinct. So yeah, it's just not even any. You know, it may have just not gotten saved because just there wasn't enough of an effort to it. But hey, maybe the cloning thing will work out and they'll come back. Maybe they'll find something in New Zealand. I think somebody thinks there might be one there or something like that. And yeah, so hopefully that is now for you crypto nuts out there. There was Thylacine crashed. Maybe I can pull that up. Let's see what a quick Google search will give us on that. Thylacine on shipwreck. I think there was one pair that never made it to the U.S. because their ship sank. That's the other thing. Like, there's so many, like, could this be, could this not be? Thoughts on Thylacine being a chupacabra. I think this is what I was talking about. Posage. This might just be a message board. Unexplainedmysteries.com. I've read some speculation about the Thylacine or Tasmanian tiger simply last for a few conservationists took available Thylacines and transported them via ship to various points in the Central America and parts. This all in modern chupacabra sightings because the description of matches goat sucker matches perfectly to the Thylacine, and they were infamously destroyed because that's different. Anybody answer them? Yeah, so that was kind of a. But that's the sad part about it, I guess. It'd be kind of really interesting if the Thylacines were the cause to be of the, the chupacabra. That would be really interesting to find out one of these days. There's like a breeding population down the southern U.S. that's like taking out livestock and sheep. But all right, y'all. Well, that's pretty much it on the video, and hope you guys remember, if you liked it, please like and subscribe. Follow me on Instagram, and yeah, until next time, please leave a comment on anything you guys want me to go over and look at. If I think it's interesting, I'll look it up and we'll go through it on this series, but I need comments to keep it going. So yeah, until next time, follow my Instagram and I will see you in the next video. Peace.